Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new exciting episode of the Nintendogems podcast, the podcast where we talk about Nintendo games, new and old. I am your lovely, beautiful, handsome on the inside and outside host, Connor, and today I am joined by my lowly co-host and brother,
Braydon!
What's up?
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
I'm pretty good over here on my end. I think we have some spicy games to talk about today, so I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely. That's an interesting word to use.
I have a lot of feelings about the Nintendogem for this episode, so stay tuned, because I will let those feelings out.
And I have a less gem-y, more contemporary, newer release game that in a way required a lot of feelings. If you think about it.
Yeah, I don't know what this game is. It kind of scares me, so...
I know you've at least probably maybe Googled it just like when I told you I wanted to do it for the show. To cover it. What do you know about it? What is your impression?
So, when you told me that you wanted to cover this game, it's called Art Sqool with a Q instead of CH, I believe.
Correct.
So Art Sqool. I can't remember if I went to the eShop and checked it out or just typed it into Google, but I've only seen one picture, I believe, the promotional image.
Right.
And it's bizarre looking. I don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, you're going to have to walk me through this one.
Did you watch the trailer or anything?
No, I did not.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this game is Art Sqool. It is developed by a gentleman named Julian Glander, who is like this graphic designer, digital artist, game designer guy that I actually follow on Twitter. He's kind of like a Twitter funny man, but also makes really cool art, like that one image you have Googled, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It like lots of interesting digital art in the same sort of style. I guess to kind of give it some sort of reference point for the audience, I would call it Katamari-esque.
Ah, okay.
Like generally, like everything in the game is like
kind of bizarre.
Yeah, bizarre, a little blocky, lots of pastel colors.
Yeah, colorful.
Very colorful. Kind of like rounded, cutesy in a weird way.
Blocky and rounded.
Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah.
I know what you mean.
It's like low polygon graphics, but it's like they're colorful, but then they're shiny, and it's not really like cell shaded either. Skipping ahead a little bit, the whole game world feels like it was made in like Unity or like Unreal Engine or something. Like it all kind of feels like it's like barely held together by a thread.
Yeah.
But I'll kind of get to that. But yes, it was developed by this guy. So I kind of followed this game's development incidentally. I didn't realize it was out until pretty recently. It originally came out on Steam about 2 years ago to the day.
Really? Like today?
Just about, like February.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then it dropped on the Nintendo Switch eShop about a year and a half later, last fall. And so I finally picked it up. If you watch the trailer alone as like a primer for the game, it sets the stage very well for the tone of it, but not necessarily what exactly you do.
Gives you the vibe, but not the content, not the...
Yeah. So it's like very glitchy, weird, like anti-pop music.
Okay.
Like have you heard of Vaporwave?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. Yes.
I'm not that old.
I mean, well, okay. Yes, vaporwavy music, but like with really weird, glitchy, auto-tuned, computer-generated voice singing.
That sounds cool.
It's very cool, but it's very weird and silly and unnerving a little bit, but like, again, everything's all very cutesy in the game.
Sure.
So...
And I'm sorry, so to rewind, all of this is by one guy?
More or less.
Okay. I just think it's cool. Like when people can do their own music, they can program the game, design everything, or
right.
Nothing against having help either.
So the developers are listed as Julian Glander and Red Deer Games. I don't know anything about Red Deer Games, but the publishers are Glander Co., which is his thing, and he is definitely like the visionary behind it. When you play the game, it's pretty clear that it can easily be like a one-man job. And I kind of believe that it is.
Cool.
So to get to the game itself, you in Art Sqool, you play as a little character named Froshman. That is Froshmin.
Okay.
And you have just enrolled in Art Sqool. That is Art Sqool with a Q.
Uh-huh.
And You are tasked with creating different art pieces, a total of 50 throughout the game, by this neural AI network that is personified by a floating, weird, glitchy letter Q with eyes.
Okay.
And so it takes place in like this huge open 3D world that you can just kind of walk around and explore. You have an infinite jump.
Like essentially fly?
Yes, a very like unintuitive flying mechanic
Yeah.
because it is just like you tap the jump button and you just like keep going
Keep
up.
bouncing.
Yeah. The game world is like a bunch of different like floating islands kind of like stacked on top of each other, like kind of mishmashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can just kind of walk around, jump around, fly around, whatever, this whole world, looking at all these weird objects, artifacts, buildings. It's all like, again, like it's kind of like Katamari esque, but if Katamari were set
Mm-hmm.
on like some weird alien world instead of like on Earth.
I was about to say, so is everything like purple and surreal and like trippy
Yeah,
colors,
yeah,
or
it's very
is it
surreal.
like New York buildings? You know what I mean?
No, it's very surreal and abstract. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are buildings, but they are not conventional shapes. They're like spheres
Mm-hmm.
and like curly tubes, and they're all like pink and purple and blue and yellow, like bright pastel colors.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have this whole world to explore. It's a big world, but you can kind of see everything there is in like half an hour.
Okay.
It's a little game. You can explore the world in walk mode, but then you can press the R button to enter art mode, and then
Hmm.
it essentially turns into Microsoft Paint,
Okay.
and that's how you make your art. Actually,
Like a more complex Microsoft Paint, or like literally, the same basic tools that they give you there?
arguably a simpler Microsoft Paint. Do you remember KidPix Studio?
Yes, I do.
It's a lot like that.
Whoa.
It's a lot like KidPix Studio, and like only because it's a game, it's also reminiscent of like Mario Paint in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. But half of the reason that you can walk around in the world, I think, is to like get inspiration. Sort of like there's so many weird
Huh.
cool design things to like look at and draw, and like some of the prompts even are like draw a tree that you see on campus.
Yeah.
Tree meaning like a weird like pink broccoli that looks like
Right.
rubber sticking out of the ground, you know.
Nifty.
Yeah. But the other function of like the big open world is that you actually find the different brushes that you have available and the different colors you can use in your palette in the world. You kind of like they're like items that you collect. They're
Okay.
hidden around, sprinkled around. So the more you explore, the more tools and stuff you can use to draw, paint, make your art.
Hmm. So, can I ask about the brushes? Like, does it unlock the color pink, or does it
Yes,
unlock like a whole palette of pinks? You know what I mean? Or like literally you do only start out with like red, blue, yellow, or something?
that's a good question because it has an interesting answer. You start out with a black pencil, like
Oh.
Microsoft Paint,
Uh huh.
and then you can collect like a wavy brush that's like a pencil, but it just like automatically like kind of like woo, woo, woo,
Squiggles or
wave.
something?
Yeah, squiggles. You can get like a stamp that is a random image every time you use it.
Uh huh.
You can get a rainbow brush that is just a randomly generated rainbow of colors.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the shape tool that's like basically the shape tool in Microsoft Paint. Like you kind of like draw
Yeah.
like a closed like polygon or whatever, and it just like fills it in.
Uh huh.
You find the paint bucket. So those are like tools, and then you also you also find like the colors themselves, like yellow, pink, blue, purple,
Gotcha.
white, and those are essentially all the colors there are.
They don't give you colors that are outside of the palette of the game.
Right. And yes, and that's where the interesting answer is because as you progress through the game, as you turn in your assignments and continue forward, the game world changes in color. The environment, everything in the game world will like kind of shift
Whoa.
colors in that
Uh
palette.
huh.
And the same goes for like your palette that you're using for your art.
Yeah.
And it's like it took me a long time to notice that that was happening.
You're like, I swear that was green a second ago.
Yeah,
And
actually, it's like kind of disarming a little bit.
uh huh.
But and I don't know why what the significance of it is, or if it's just like a weird abstract choice just to like kind of be weird and abstract because it's an art
Hmm.
game, you know. But it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the general progression is you are given an assignment by the AI. The assignments include draw a dog, draw a dream you had last night, take the most amount of time and deliberation to create the most articulate piece that you will ever make. Uh,
Okay.
like there, I think there's like 200 some prompts
Mm-hmm.
that are kind of like randomly selected for the 50 that you have to do to
Yeah.
complete the game. So draw a thing, return to the professor, the AI man, and he will grade your work with a letter grade. To I beat the game. I completed all
Mm-hmm.
50 assignments that I had to, and I collected almost all of the brushes and the colors. I couldn't find all of them.
Uh-huh.
And through all 50 assignments, I'm still not sure if the grades are randomly generated or not.
Huh. Oh, that's
I
also just an interesting design choice. Just
Yeah.
go into detail.
So I can't tell if it's on purpose just to like kind of mess with the player
Uh-huh.
or to like kind of like make a jab at like the futility of art or whatever. Like
Right. It's arbitrary.
it is, I think it is. Well, but it has consequences actually if you get a bad grade.
Oh,
It
okay.
it's very interesting. I mean, I think just to touch on it broadly, I think this game has a lot to say about art and the artistic process and art school itself and like grading a subjective medium.
Right.
Like it has a lot to say about that without actually saying it because it's just like a silly indie game that's about just like Microsoft Paint and it like
Yeah.
it doesn't actually say any of that directly, but it just like in a way suggests it by being
Uh-huh.
the art game that it is, by being a piece of art itself even.
Uh-huh.
Um, but
It is the natural result of playing this game.
exactly right. But yeah, so he grades your assignments. There's four criteria that it's like line work, colors, concept, and like something else. And it's like a little like bar graph for each one. It tells you like what your score is for each of those things, and then you get a letter grade. But there were assignments where I was like, I just want to see what's next, and I would just like draw like a single black line on the canvas,
Mhm.
and then I would get like a C or a B and move on. And like
Okay.
color would be like all the way up on the score thing for whatever reason. And then
Right.
like some that like I put a lot of effort in actually, like and tried to follow the prompt very closely and got a D and had to do it again. You know,
Right, right.
it's and I really can't tell if it's like if it gauges it by the prompt itself
Uh-huh.
or if it actually detects anything about what you draw, or if it's just completely randomly generated. And I would say that it's got to be randomly selected arbitrarily, except so I played it kind of communally.
Mhm.
You can play it, it's very cool on the Switch because obviously you can play it on the go and use the touch screen to paint, which is very intuitive.
Uh-huh.
Makes sense for the kind of game itself. But what I did was I played it on the TV. And so you use the controller and you just use like the right stick to move the cursor around.
Oh
And
gosh.
so the art pieces came out really janky a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it was really fun because I played it like with some of my friends. We'd like pass the controller around and like
They take a turn drawing something.
yeah, it was almost like a party game in that way. We would kind of like compare notes, and like some of us would get really terrible grades, and some of us would get good grades. To bring it back around for the grading system, my one friend Lauren, she was given an assignment. I think it was like the dream one to draw like the dream you had last night.
Mhm.
And this was like assignment like 40 something. This was close to the end. This was like everything was smooth sailing up until now.
Uh-huh.
We handed her the controller. She did it, and she got an F. And so she had to do it again. And so she tried again. She like drew something different. We were like, maybe you didn't use enough color or something, or like maybe it wasn't like intricate enough or whatever. And so she did it again,
Uh-huh.
and she got an F again.
Whoa, okay.
And then I took it and I made something like whatever,
Mhm.
and I got like a B or something, or an A, and I passed. And it like,
What?
so I don't know. Sometimes it feels fixed. Sometimes
Mhm.
it feels like it knows what's actually happening. I'm really not sure.
It's just hard to tell. So she got 2 Fs in a row? Had you seen an F before that?
No, I'd gotten D's and had to redo some before, like just a few, but she got two F's in a row, and I have no idea how or why.
And
Because
then she hates art school now.
yes, art is not for her apparently. This is more of just like a personal anecdote, a personal story. I thought about having my roommate Kyle on this episode to share this story himself, but I think I'll do it justice. We were passing the controller back and forth, and he was given the assignment to make a piece as slowly and deliberately as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like assignment 30 something. This was like a ways into the game.
Yeah.
And so he took 20 or 30 minutes making this intricate. I'm making so many weird callbacks for this episode, but do you remember like the Windows 98 screensaver that's like the pipes? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
drawing
yes, where
themselves?
it like built itself. The
Yeah,
pipes, like, yeah.
that's like what it looked like. Like he was like making this very intricate, just a system of
Uh-huh.
lines, but like
Yeah.
he was being very methodical and like thoughtful about it because he's like an artist
Uh-huh.
himself.
I was about to say, I think he's an artist, but
Oh,
yeah.
very much so. And he was
Mhm.
having fun with the game with me, but the game crashed.
No way.
The game crashed. And again, like some of
At
these,
what point? Like, while he was still working?
yeah,
Dude, had it crashed before?
no, and it hadn't since. And I don't know.
Too freaking deliberate.
I guess it was baffling. It was like our jaws dropped. And again, like I mean, some of these assignments, I just like make it like a single line. Some of them, I like the most I would spend is like 5, maybe 10 minutes on it. It's
Uh-huh.
like drawing with the controllers and anything. But he was like doing his best,
Oh,
and
that feels like the dominoes falling before you get to put the last one down or something.
right. So I mean, that was kind of it. He kind of gave up on that assignment. We turned it back on, and then I did it for him.
Yeah.
And then and he was legitimately pretty sad about it. It was
Uh-huh.
very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then the best part was though that the following assignment was this is just like the kind of thing that makes me think that something about this game is like intentional and like trying to mess with the player because the
Yeah.
following assignment was to draw what sadness looks like to you.
You're kidding.
I kid you not. I
Oh,
swear on everything that I am.
that's hilarious. It's a conspiracy.
It is. I mean, like for the audience, me and Braydon kind of discussed before this, like if I wanted to discuss this game, Art Sqool, because it's like not too much of a game. Again, like it's just kind of like a paint
Uh-huh.
program. There's not a ton to it in itself, but like I don't trust it.
Right.
You know, I think there's so much more
It's
than
a
meets
sus
the eye.
game.
It is when Art Sqool is sus. I don't know. I can get really pretentious talking about art and especially games as art, should we?
Yeah.
But like I don't know the way it like this short like and we spent like a total like maybe 3 hours playing the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
This short little game just illustrated so many facets of the futility of art, the decadence, the
Splendor of creativity.
yes, the fun and community that can be found in artistry. Yeah, I don't know. So many facets of the artistic process reveal themselves in this silly little game, this silly little $6 game.
$6. I was waiting for that.
6.99, I think.
Okay. Use your gold points. It'll be 6.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I've got on it. There's not much else.
That was fun, though.
But I mean, the thing is, I don't know who I would. And here we go again with the art discussion. Is like, I think it's a worthwhile experience, but like, how much do you charge for an experience like this? Like, I almost think
Uh-huh.
$7 is too much for some people.
Right.
If you watch the trailer and are like, I want to make silly little pieces of Microsoft Paint that look like this trailer, then pick it up and you'll have a blast. And especially if you play it like with friends, like I did,
Uh-huh.
that was
That sounds
definitely
like a good idea.
yeah, it definitely made it a lot of fun. I think I would have been a lot more bored and like a little frustrated with it if I was just like playing it by myself on the
Mm-hmm.
tablet, trying my best. But as a silly, fun, lighthearted experience, I think it was absolutely worth it. Though I do want to touch again, I alluded to earlier, the game world itself is like kind of barely held on by a thread.
Yeah, you did mention that. What does that mean? It's just like barely functioning system?
Yeah, the controls are terrible. The camera makes no sense. There's like physics objects in the world that just kind of like your character just kind of like stumbles over, like Froshman, the character,
Yeah.
just kind of like glitches over and through like weirdly.
Hmm.
The game world itself doesn't feel like it was like actually play tested.
Sure.
For better or for worse. But that's also kind of like this creator, this visionary, Julian Glander is kind of like a thing.
Yeah, it seems
Like
like a style.
yeah, like the fact that you can like kind of infinite super jump like all the way to the sky infinitely forever as long as you want is kind of like indicative of like, yeah, it's just kind of like it's barely
Have
a
fun,
game.
kids. Have fun.
Yeah, it's a game made by the kind of designer that knows that gamers like to break the rules,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
and that's what you can do
Uh huh.
because you can super jump into the skybox, crash the game, and
Yeah.
glitch into the geometry of the world on accident or
Mm-hmm.
on purpose. Like it's that kind of thing.
Don't you wish you could glitch into the geometry of real life?
I think it would hurt.
You're right.
But yeah, that's just about all I got. Any questions, class?
My only question is pretty lame. So when you're painting, do they just like give you a white background or what?
Yes, but you can use the fill bucket to change it to whatever colors you have.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So I would usually make the background like a pretty pink or a blue, and then go from
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I don't know if I will get it, but
there. That is understandable.
I thoroughly enjoyed your telling of your experience of it, and I
Cool.
so I think I'll have to pass on positive praise for it too. You know what I mean?
I'll bring it over, and you can. We'll see if you get an A or an F on the first try.
Yeah, sounds good.
So then, our gem for the week is apparently something extremely special to Braden.
It
Uh,
is.
we've had a lot of discussion behind the scenes about what kind of presentation we wanted to do for it, or
Yeah.
what Braden wanted to do for it. He played it.
Yeah.
I have not played this game. You thought about doing like a scripted essay sort of thing,
Yeah.
maybe doing like a Pokemon spin-off comparison like we've done before.
Mm-hmm. Those were fun.
It was fun, but I feel guilty that it is being stuck next to an equally niche, obscure flagship game, as it were, for this episode.
It's okay. I had been wanting to play this game for years since it came out, and I finally got my hands on it. I finally got to spend some time with it, and it's such a roller coaster of emotion now that I've finally gotten to play it. So I want to really try and nail it as hard as I can. But
Mhm.
I think the Nintendo treatment will be just fine.
All right, I'm glad that you feel that way because here we are.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Here we are. Well, without further ado, the game that I'm going to be discussing is Pokemon Conquest for the Nintendo DS. It came out in 2012, and one thing that Connor and I have been discussing is kind of strange is it was released for the DS, but the 3DS actually released a year earlier.
Yeah,
They had been developing this game for a while for the DS apparently, that they didn't want to convert it to the 3DS.
right. Which kind of explains its obscurity too.
Sure, absolutely. It was on a dying console. But part of the obscurity as well is that this is a Pokemon spin off game. It does not follow the traditional Pokemon monster catching formula. It takes on the genre of tactical role playing game.
What is a tactical role-playing game?
All right, yeah, that's a good question. So, to step back for a second, a tactical role playing game is different from traditional turn based role playing games in that there's generally a grid for which your characters can move around. So rather than only being able to choose an attack and then that attack kind of happens, you take turns with you and the opponent. There's actually a map that these characters move through, and then you choose your attack or your magic spell or whatever, and then that attack happens.
So it's kind of like chess.
It is reminiscent of chess. It adds, a three-dimensional aspect to the turn-based role-playing game where you just need to be concerned about the placement of your characters. We're at a great point for me to kind of go into some of the in-depth nature of tactical role-playing games. There's so much variation on what can happen for these games. Fire Emblem, for example, when your character dies in the game, it's gone forever. You can never use that character again. Another thing that Fire Emblem does, and that some tactical role-playing games do, is that when you attack an enemy, that enemy automatically gets to attack you back. Some tactical RPGs don't do that. Some care about what direction your character is facing at the end of its turn, because if someone gets behind you, they'll deal more damage. But
Mm.
some games don't care about that. So going into Pokemon Conquest, I was very curious, what kind of game this would be, because from Fire Emblem to Advance Wars to Final Fantasy Tactics, there's just plenty of variation. Mario plus Rabbids is a
Yeah,
tactical role-playing game that blew my
right.
mind because, maybe we ought to talk about that sometime. But it's a different kind of tactical RPG.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of variation within the genre. I feel like it gets like some intricate niche genres. It gets like a bad rap for kind of being the same thing every game.
Hmm.
But there's definitely a lot of variation a lot of the time.
Yeah. When I heard that Pokemon was getting the tactical RPG treatment,
Mhm.
I really thought that sounded like a phenomenal use of the property, the Pokemon property, of the battling system, Pokemons, Pokemon having attacks that are unique to them, to each
Mhm.
Pokemon, the type,
The type difference.
yeah, the battle type differences, and what's effective against the others. It seems like it should work perfectly. And I guess to finally move into the gameplay a little bit, I would say overall it succeeds. It is indeed a tactical RPG that is Pokemon. And for better or worse, they tried to take it on, and I think they missed a lot of marks that
Oh, really?
call for a sequel. No, I need to slow down. I need to.
Hey, lay out the concept of the game at the outset. What's going on?
So the game, to make it even stranger, is actually a crossover with the franchise called Nobunaga's Ambition, which is it is a legacy strategy series that has produced games and I believe other crossovers.
Mm.
Maybe I kind of didn't realize that, or I forgot about it in the 8 years since it released, and I picked it up a couple months ago.
So you say it obviously the gameplay is going to take notes from both Nobunaga's Ambition being like the tactical RPG and from Pokemon being like the regular turn-based
Hmm.
RPG battles with like different types and elements at play and like all different creatures to collect. But what is the plot, I guess? Like how does it are there Pokemon in the Nobunaga's Ambition universe or like vice versa or something?
So it's kind of like they took the Nobunaga's Ambition characters and threw them into the Pokemon universe.
Huh.
It takes place in the Ransei region, which, to my understanding, there's no other Pokemon games that take
Oh,
place
interesting.
there, and it is all about war. You are a warlord in feudal Japan, which kind of goes along with Nobunaga's Ambition, that theme. And you are tasked with taking over the 16 other cities in the Ransei region to prevent essentially an evil warlord from doing the same thing.
Mm.
The story is very weak and doesn't seem very Pokemon esque because, like I said, it's all about war, and you are going to these different cities, and like the warlords of each city are kind of friendly. They're like, "Oh, you're challenging me. Yeah, good luck."
Mm.
But I mean, if you win, you are taking their city.
My goodness.
I don't, you are now their king. And I don't know.
It sounds like
I
a happy balance between like actual like historical Japanese warlord conquest.
right.
Nobunaga was like a historical figure. That's like a real. He's like a real like warlord man. But combining, I mean, Pokemon's almost sort of the same way. Like you fight a terrorist organization, Team Rocket, on the regular,
Right.
but you don't like fight them. You just battle your Pokemon, and then like
That's
either the
true.
world ends or doesn't because of that. So like, I mean, the stakes are high, but like, it sounds like it makes like that kind of historical fiction that the Nobunaga's Ambition series is known for, and like
Yes.
keeps it light, keeps it fantastical, and like on the in the Pokemon tone where things are the stakes are high, but like the way they play out is, I guess, lighter. I don't know exactly what I mean to say.
So, and part of the blend of the tone that you're, kind of getting into, as the warlord, you have a partner Pokemon. Yours is automatically Eevee, and you
Mhm.
you have a friend, a girl who has a Jigglypuff as her partner Pokemon, and that is kind of how the units will work throughout the game. As you capture different cities, you can recruit warriors from those cities, and they all have a partner Pokemon. And so you can change that partner Pokemon for the warriors, but it's not like you're really forming your own Pokemon team. It's not the party system that you're used to in the traditional Pokemon games.
Right. Are you? Do you choose a party of people, of like soldiers or other warlords for each battle?
You do. So you have the ability to move your warlords around the cities that you've captured, to train them, to do activities such as find you money or items, or they can go on to attack an enemy city.
And that initiates like a
It
battle,
does, and
I
that
guess.
initiates a battle. And then to answer your question, you kind of draw the troops you want from the cities you want to go to battle.
And so the troops, the units that you use in the battle, aren't the soldiers. They're not the troops. They're the Pokemon that they choose,
That
right?
is correct.
That's interesting because I mean, it makes it really, it really does make it into like a tactical Pokemon battle.
It's true. So yeah, that is really getting into the meat of the game and what you want to be the most fun part of the game is,
Hmm.
the tactical battles.
So then explain the battle system and what makes this battle system unique from other tactical RPGs. Like, how does it implement the Pokemon angle, I suppose? Like usually in tactical RPGs, like you have a turn, your player has a turn
Mhm,
where you like move each of your units around, maybe make them take action, attack opponents or
mhm.
something, and then the enemy team does the same thing. They move their units around the map and so on. And then I assume with Pokemon Conquest, the type differences are kind of key in like strategizing and building your team of troops.
Very much so. And so you get to see kind of what you're up against before you go to battle. You can choose appropriate Pokemon types to take them to battle and, not effective, not very effective, and then super effective are, definitely strategies that you want to play into. The combat was it ended up being a little bit more simple than I had hoped. I had gone in thinking, maybe hoping that the Pokemon had multiple attacks.
Do they not?
No.
Each Pokemon
Each
has
po-
one move.
each Pokemon only has the one move. And so let's use Charmander as an example. Charmander uses Flamethrower, and he doesn't impact the square right in front of him. The attack skips a square to do damage. Essentially, two squares in front of the Charmander is where he does
Mm.
damage, and that's just Flamethrower.
So he's kind of like a ranged character, sort of like a zone.
Exactly,
Interesting. Okay.
but Torchic will have that exact same Flamethrower move.
Mm.
And so at some point, it begins to feel like the different Pokemon don't mean a whole lot.
So
The Pokemon will evolve,
does that change their moves, their abilities at all?
it does. So Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, and Charmeleon fills in that second square. So
Uh,
he actually does damage to the two squares in front of him, and then Charizard gets three squares.
okay,
And
sure.
so
It's like upgrading
there
your units in Fire Emblem or something, like any other
yeah,
RPG.
absolutely. And so it is fun, and the Pokemon skin to it all is so satisfying and feels like the future of Pokemon to me. After playing Sword and Shield,
Mm,
I was so disappointed.
right.
It just it was watered down, it didn't feel fun, it was a chore, and while there is plenty of strategy and metagame to the competitive Pokemon scene, I do feel like the tactical role-playing game suits the franchise very well. Especially if they were able to give the Pokemon multiple attacks or
Right.
really just flesh out some of those things that we from the main games. The warrior system is a little obtuse and doesn't serve the game well in my opinion. There are 200 warriors and 200 Pokemon.
Okay.
I wish they had 400 Pokemon.
Right. I mean, aiming high in the sky. Why not all of them?
I agree, Sword and Shield didn't have all of them, so
Sure.
poop on Pokemon.
I mean, they were still doing like the whole gang, but in the DS games. I feel like it could have been possible back then, even.
Yeah, I do think so. There were only, I believe there were only around 400, 500 at that time. It came out after Diamond and Pearl, so that is the
Gosh, at
gen-
2012, the 3DS was out. It was probably after Black and White, maybe even Black and White 2, right?
Oh my gosh, you're so right
That's crazy.
because Nobunaga has Zekrom as his partner Pokemon,
Oh, wow.
and that is the Pokemon that will bring devastation and stuff. So, like
Interesting.
you're right. It came out after the Black and White generation. So it has that pool of Pokemon to choose from. And again, I just wish there were more Pokemon because I did end up seeing Machop a whole lot.
Definitely.
I saw Meowth a whole lot. And then even that means that the third evolution Pokemon at the later stages, you see those a lot. It's cool to see Machamp and Kirlia like over and over again,
Mm.
but there are so many Pokemon to choose from.
There's so many to choose from. It feels like they should have been able to fill out the roster and keep the variety, at least in appearances, going.
Yes.
So I have a few questions about the gameplay, and that kind of ties into one of them. So you said with Charmander and Torchic, they both start with that one flamethrower move that attacks like a certain
Hmm.
way. Yes.
Sure.
So
Yes.
is that endemic to fire types? Are fire type Pokemon like analogous to like range characters in say Fire Emblem or something? And then is like the water type, does the water type do like an area effect like the four squares around your character or something?
Unfortunately, not. For the most
Oh, no, I
part,
mean that's fortunate to me. Go on. You explain.
I think that there should be a fire type that has range and a fire type that has close combat.
Right.
And, well, there should be 4 of each because there's that many Pokemon.
True.
But there should also be a water type that has range and a water type. And it's more like all the water types are the same, all the fire types are the same.
So then yes, I guess. Maybe I didn't ask my question correctly syntax wise, but
Hmm.
so yes, each fire type does kind of have that same move.
Yes.
Huh.
When you get up to the later stages of Pokemon, some of the third evolutions have unique attacks, quote unquote unique attacks. They just cover different kind of patterns of spaces where the enemies might be
Hmm.
on the grid. The moves do get a little more specialized to the Pokemon, once the Pokemon are at their full level, but at least all the first level fire types, they just have that basic flamethrower.
So you said there are still the type differences. They're still like not very effective and super effective. And you
Hmm.
said that you do have to strategize somewhat for like the opponent that you're facing. Will an opponent kind of like the gym leaders in the core Pokemon games, will certain opponents like stick to certain types or something?
That is how it ends up. Each city almost has its own element, and so like there's an electric city, and then there's a water city, and then there's a fire city,
Mhm.
the ghost city, the dragon city, blah
But
blah blah.
then for each of those cities, you would end up using yes a certain type of Pokemon, but then that means you would end up using only one certain type of move. Is that how it ends up panning out? Because like you were saying, you wish you had like a fire type that had like a close range attack and a fire type that had a range attack.
Hmm.
So like if there were like 400 Pokemon, there could be something like that, like a fire type healer,
Yeah.
a fire type close range, a fire type ranger, and then so
Hmm.
up until you get to the grass type city, you could have like a variety of fire types to have like a multifaceted fire type team with which to tackle
Hmm.
that kind of challenge. And instead, it
Right.
sounds like you kind of just have a bunch of Pokemon that do the exact same thing as a team.
That is the sad base
That's so
truth.
interesting.
Again, Abra can't attack, and
Mm,
so he teleports around, and so like
sure.
he's different. Magikarp uses Splash; he can't attack; he's different. But for the most part, the attacking Pokemon are the same.
Which I mean, I guess that's kind of how normal Pokemon is too. Like you, even for like certain type gym leaders, you want a slightly rounded out team. I guess I don't know.
It's true, but I just want to compare it to one of my holy grail games that I actually happened to repurchase the
Okay.
same day I got Conquest, which is Final Fantasy
Uh,
Tactics Advance
mhm,
for the Game Boy Advance. That's deserving of its own,
certainly.
gem slot someday. But I think that could have been the first tactical RPG I ever played, and I fell in love with the genre. That game is just fulfilling and deep and rich in content. And so that is where I formed my
Hmm.
expectations on the genre. And Pokemon Conquest just feels smaller than
Sure.
Tactics for some reason.
I mean, it's an experimental game, you know.
It is, but it's literally smaller. The maps themselves are smaller. There's not as much room to move about, which means that even the ranged Pokemon don't feel
Mhm.
like ranged Pokemon. The whole map has to kind of be constrained and squished in, and so Pokemon can only attack
Right.
3 spaces in front of them. Whereas in Final Fantasy Tactics, the archer has
Right.
7, 8 spaces of range, which feels like range, you know?
So do you feel like this smaller scale is an attempt to simplify things? Like, does this feel like a simplification, a almost kidification of, like, the tactical RPG genre? Like, to make it more accessible to the
Yes.
Pokemon audience, as it were. That's
Yes,
in
it
that
does.
I can see just with that concept in mind alone, I can see already, like, just, like, on the surface how this could feel like a missed mark, a missed opportunity across the board,
Mhm.
and how there could be a potential for, like, a better Sword and Shield or something, you know?
Right, yes, there's just so many components of the genre, of Pokemon Conquest itself, that could be repurposed and retooled into the mainline games that would make
Right.
them better games. And if not that, freaking give me
Mhm.
Pokemon Conquest 2, because I know they
Right.
can make a better game.
The evidence is there, the potential is there, the ideas.
The potential is there. And let me tell you, they didn't cut this game short. There is post game for days. I believe there are upward of like 36 bonus chapters after.
Holy moly.
Yeah, after you complete the mainline game, and then you have to play the game again to fight Nobunaga like the real
Sure.
Nobunaga. You know what I mean? And so, they didn't skimp on this game. They just filled out the wrong
Mhm.
areas or something.
I was gonna ask if it feels rushed in that way, but I guess if there's so much content in it, I guess it can't really feel. But I definitely feel like something about the timing and like the life
Mhm.
cycle of the DS and the rise of the 3DS. It seems indicative of something of like how the game's quality ended up. Like it might have been more of a B team
Right.
effort than like maybe they originally wanted or something. I don't know.
I think the game is just so novel. I don't understand how Pokemon Ranger got 5
Right.
spin-offs or got 5 sequels, whereas Pokemon Conquest hasn't been touched. It is a great experimental
Right.
piece for the Pokemon franchise and for the tactical RPG
Well,
genre.
so in that regard, I'll do you one better than Pokemon Ranger. Something that it is reminding me a lot of is the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games.
Yep.
Because Mystery Dungeon, for those not in the know out there, Sheeran the Wanderer Mystery Dungeon is a classic, that kind of randomly generated dungeon crawling RPG adventure.
Roguelike, I
Yeah,
guess?
like a roguelike esque thing is an old genre and is mostly started by this series literally called the Mystery Dungeon. And the first Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game was actually a crossover, and
Mhm.
it's gone on from there. Like it's also got like 5 or 6 sequels at this point. Like it has one on the
Right.
Switch.
Mhm.
And so, what do you think went right or resonated there with that kind of Pokemon adaptation of a niche RPG genre that didn't pan out with Conquest? Is that too like intricate of a question?
No, because I feel like I do have a decent answer,
Hmm.
because tactical RPGs are essentially split into 2 parts. There is the battle, and then there is whatever kind of
All like the systems and like
menus
administrative kind of
outside of
stuff
the
you
battle.
do outside of the battles. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And, I don't think they necessarily nailed that either.
Hmm.
I wish I had played Nobunaga's Ambition before, and I was more familiar with that series and kind of how that flavor of strategy plays out,
Uh huh.
before going into this, because conquering the cities isn't quite as engaging as you would like it to be. They threaten you with the enemies taking back their cities, but I only experienced that once or twice. I imagine the post game maybe does more with that.
Uh
It is annoying to train your Pokemon.
huh.
I only
Oh
got
no, that's not. Well, it's annoying to train your Pokemon in Pokemon. To be fair, let's be real.
Yeah, but you have to go into this entirely different tactical RPG,
Mhm.
like, that's gonna take 10, 15
Sure.
minutes to complete, an ordeal, and so I only got 6 or 7 Pokemon to their final stages, and I ended up using them, throughout the rest of the game,
Right.
mostly.
Uh,
So I have like 100 base level Pokemon, and then 6 or 7,
beefed up ones.
right.
So that is a minor question I also had is so you talk about the Pokemon evolving. Do they level up per Pokemon, or is it like per troop, or how does that progression work?
That's really interesting. I think this was, huh. I'm about to sound hypocritical because I'm going to give praise to a feature that I earlier disliked. But the Pokemon's power, the Pokemon's strength is based on its link to its warrior.
Okay,
So,
you kind of alluded to that earlier.
as
Like each troop has like its own Pokemon that it like resonates most with.
exactly. And so, and that's true. Each warrior has a Pokemon that they resonate with the most and will get they can reach 100% link power. Whereas if it's a Pokemon that, they don't have that attachment to, they can only reach 60 or 70.
Mm-hmm.
And
Interesting.
so, yeah, as they battle together more, their link goes up, and that is directly correlated to the Pokemon's strength.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but like leveling up and evolving, how does that play in?
Right. So, and in turn, that means once they reach a certain link percentage, they basically just evolve. It was interesting. It took me forever to evolve my Haunter to Gengar because you had to specifically eliminate a warrior's Pokemon with him
Uh,
after you reach a certain link
sure.
percentage. And so, some Pokemon have special requirements to evolve,
Right.
but really it's generally based on how good their bond is with their trainer, with their warrior.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Going back to where we were introducing this game, I really and clearly have convoluted feelings about
No
this
doubt.
game. I haven't landed on how I feel. I haven't landed on other
Great
than
time
I need a sequel.
for this episode. Then I'm glad you had a platform to verbally process all of your feelings about it.
Well, and I think I've gotten through most of the kind of game features that I found
Uh-huh.
interesting, and different and unique to either the Pokemon experience or this strange crossover.
Hmm. Can I share with the audience something you told me?
Mhm.
So in our pre-recording discussions of like what we were going to talk about, and you were playing Pokemon Conquest, and you were excited to play it before you played it. You were jazzed to play it, and then you were
Mhm.
excited about it while you were playing it. And then now, I mean, obviously, in this current moment, the present, your feelings are mixed. But there was one time after you had finished it, and before we had decided we were going to talk about it, you were deciding what format you wanted to present this game in because you said it was maybe the best Pokemon game you had ever played. You said that.
You just ratted me out. And dude, I think that
And you play every Pokemon
is
game. You play
right.
every
Okay.
mainline Pokemon game, so that's really saying something. And I dipped on
Okay.
Pokemon in Diamond and Pearl, so like I that means something to me too. You're under the
All right.
court of law here.
This is a good I think this will be a good way to kind of wrap up the conversation too.
Okay,
Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I think, are objectively the best Pokemon
correct.
games.
Here.
Gold and Silver are my favorite because I have the most nostalgia for
Also heard.
them.
Here.
This game gives me that gut kind of wow, there is something here. And I have to say, though, I think when I said that, I was going off of potential.
Sure, no doubt.
I think I had a sequel formed in my mind with all of the issues ironed out and, you know, a few added features, and then it could be the best Pokemon game. The addition of a map during battle adds a whole new dimension to the concept. Give the Pokemon 2 or 3 separate attacks, and that'll resonate with the mainline Pokemon games. I think it could be a new I hate that we're talking about this in 2021 instead of
Right,
2012 because I think it could have been just a whole new genre spin-off branch of Pokemon, and I don't know what
like
happened.
Mystery Dungeon.
Like,
For all intents and purposes, it was like a one-off spin-off in its
uh-huh.
own time, and then it just took off for some reason, for whatever reason, and now it's still around. But I think what it sounds like is just like this is the biggest innovation on the direct Pokemon formula that you have experienced in a long time
My goodness,
since
yes,
I
that
mean since
feels so good to hear in my
yeah, I
ears.
mean like it's as simple as that. Like since what? Since freaking Red and Blue? Like I don't know. I mean like
Right.
it's because it's the same formula every single game, and but like and I
Mm-hmm.
think
Other than pinball or Mystery Dungeon or Rainbow.
exactly, and like that's the important thing. That's part of the important comparison with Mystery Dungeon is that Mystery Dungeon is also like an RPG series that incorporates like
Mm-hmm.
actual core Pokemon elements. It's not like Pokemon Channel or Hey You Pikachu that it's like a
Right.
completely different game. They're just like a different RPG subgenres that like really are other Pokemon games in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And which I mean, a blip in that kind of thinking that it like Pokemon Conquest that just kind of happened and shook up the formula in an innovative and unique way, but hasn't been touched since.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no doubt that's inspiring. Like literally a decade later,
Right.
and a
And
decade
man,
later, and it still hasn't been touched. Like that kind of innovation hasn't been touched
uh-huh.
even by the most recent contemporary entry in Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting.
I it's so fascinating that it's just fallen to the wayside. And I think that's, just part of my fascination with it, part of my appreciation for
Yeah,
it.
no doubt.
And man, I haven't said this, the Pokemon look great. It's isometric freaking sprites and they look so good.
Uh-huh.
And they do some
They're like well animated
kind
and
of like
stuff.
portrait. They're well animated. The portrait art that they use for them as well, like, is so good.
I mean that alone, like that
Uh,
conceptually to me, like apart from like honestly most things, like just like the aesthetic of like these like Japanese warlords, because I love like Dynasty Warriors. We talked
mhm,
about that, like the
right.
feudal Japan kind of warlord stuff. I like that whole
Mhm,
era, that kind of theme, and like those like characters with like their signature Pokemon by their side, like Nobunaga with like a Charizard, like
uh-huh,
Lu Bu with like a Dragonite
uh-huh,
by his side, like is a really cool idea to me.
uh-huh.
Who these characters as like main Pokemon would be is interesting. That's like fan fiction stuff, you know. But like official media like that is very cool to see.
I do it's very interesting hearing you say that. It does sound fun, and, like, you actually make it more appealing to me.
Mm,
I wonder if the Nobunaga's Ambition crossover element actually held the game back.
right? I mean, that's kind of what I think.
If they had just implemented the tactical RPG element into straight up
Mhm.
Pokemon, I think it could have even felt even better.
Right.
But unfortunately, it may have been Nobunaga's ambition which even prompted the thought of a tactical RPG Pokemon. So, chicken and egg kind of thing, I think.
Perhaps they were just too Nobunaga's ambitious with this title.
Oh, they said Nobunaga's ambition in there in the
Wait,
game.
no way,
I'm gonna
really?
use that
They
screen.
title dropped it in the dialogue?
Yep, I screenshotted it. I took a picture with my phone,
Uh,
um,
why
to put on our
why did
post.
they do what did it make sense?
It was just like, and that is the end of Nobunaga's ambition, or something like that.
It's like the final cutscene, like after you've beaten the final boss, and you look back on your phone, and then they're
Yeah,
like,
it was at the
"Wow,
end.
this really was our Pokemon Conquest."
Yeah.
Wow, I really those 50 assignments were really something. This truly has been art school for me.
Wow, it's beautiful.
You know, Luigi, we really are the Super Mario Bros. Really makes you think. So that's pretty exhaustive report on Pokemon Conquest overall. I think.
It was a little back and forth all over the place,
Sure.
but I think I said everything I wanted to say, and I do think you bringing it back around to me saying it was the best Pokemon game I'd ever played, that was the bow I
Sure, and
needed.
I
So,
mean a statement worth noting. Yeah, I was
explain.
gonna let you get away with it, kinda, just because like after this discussion, it seems like your feelings are rationally mixed. But
Mhm.
definitely, I was curious to know how you felt about that. Still,
Yeah, and so I'm playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance now, and it's pretty dang good,
palate
dude.
cleanser.
It's unfortunate that that is just like my standard for this genre because
Unfortunate.
it,
I mean, it is the
well,
standard.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How much is it?
And Pokemon Conquest is really good too. I got it for $30. Tactics was 20. So maybe good tactics. I actually got it for $30 without the case. It's the cartridge only, which I'm not a big fan of. I am pretty uncomfortable with that, especially for small mobile games like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, $30. And for either Pokemon fans, someone looking for a strange niche tactical RPG experience, $30 for probably the 20 hours I played it is reasonable. And I did not play the post game content.
Right.
Dude, the chapters, I don't understand why there's so much. It's ridiculous. So I mean, if you like enjoy the game enough to keep playing, you know, there's easily twice as many hours as I put into it.
Sure. Well, dang.
I will say it's a little hard to find. I got lucky at one of our local game stores, but your best bet would probably be online. You know, definitely call your local guy
Sure.
first.
I
But
think in addition to it just being like obscure and like relatively unheard of and forgotten about, like it doesn't seem like it had like a huge print run. Like it is hard to find.
yeah, you're probably right. That's interesting. I wonder how long it was published for.
I don't know. I think you did whatever theoretical, ethereal essay in your head about this game justice in this external processing session.
Phew. All right. Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. Thank you for getting me through it.
Of course. Thank you for getting me through art school, paying my tuition.
Before Connor gets us out of here, I just want to say to those listening, thank you. Please subscribe to whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on right now. It would mean a lot. You can email us at nintengems@gmail. We have a Discord link. Check it out in the description of the episode. Yeah, we just want to hear from you guys. We appreciate the listens that we're getting and want to know what you like and don't like.
Yeah, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Check out my music on all streaming platforms, on Bandcamp at weave.bandcamp.com. That's weav.bandcamp.com. Check it out.
Check it out.
Well, thank you for listening to the Nintengems podcast. We love having you listen to us. My name is Connor.
And I am Braydon.
And we will rap at you next time.
Yeah, buddy. Get ready for some Bowser's Fury.
Spoilers.
Bye, guys.
Love you.